Hey everyone, welcome. So if you're watching this video, congratulations. It means that you have accepted the position and will be joining us for our class of 2020 service here. This video is going to serve as an introduction to service and also to help prepare you for your start on August 12th as well. So I'll try to go through this as succinctly as possible. If you have any questions, of course, we'll save time at the end to show who to direct questions to, but if worse comes to worse, you can just shoot me an email. I'll introduce myself. My name is Zach Fishman. I'm the Senior Manager of Core Member Experience. I have recently been the Learning and Development Manager here, as well as served 2 core years as well in East Harlem as a core member and as a team leader. So I'll help be managing your experience leading up to your trainings in August, and then throughout your trainings and throughout the year as well. So this is what the agenda is going to look like. So we'll start off with what does service look like, the benefits of service, preparing for registration and training, resources, and then some frequently asked questions that we usually get that maybe we can nip in the bud now. And then finally, any next steps that you may need. I've been posting a lot in the Facebook and sending you tons of emails, so thank you all to reading those ahead of time as well. And if I'm not making eye contact with you, it's because I'm looking at myself in the camera. So we'll start with what does service look like. Anytime I get this question, I kind of say, we can give you kind of a template for what service looks like, and you know the pitch. You'll be working with students alongside teachers and things like that. So we like to think of ourselves as near peer, right? We have a really unique relationship with students that teachers not necessarily, or even paras, won't necessarily be able to connect with students in certain capacities. And we're focusing on students who are most in need. So while also engaging the entire school as well, but you'll be working with individual groups of students who fall into a range. And there's a lot of data that goes into it to give you what we call a focus list, which you'll have a focus list anywhere from 7 to 10 students that you'll be working with them in math, ELA, social emotional learning, as well as attendance. Make sure they are all on track, because the overall purpose of us being there is to make sure that they are getting on track for learning and to make sure they're caught up with their peers as well. To do this, right, there's a lot of qualitative things that you'll have to do, writing down information about your student, but also quantitative, making sure that you're tracking your minutes, tracking your time with students, and you do that in a couple different capacities. So how do you spend your days? You can read this here, but really what it is you'll first circle, which is just a morning meeting with your manager or your team leader. So a team leader is a senior core member at around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning each day. And then from there, you'll greet your students, you'll welcome them in the morning, and then throughout the day, you'll be in and out of the classroom, either supporting the entire classroom with your teacher, right? You'll be working alongside your teacher, or bringing your teacher out, bringing your students out, that focus list of students out to work on different curriculum that we give you to help you throughout the year as well. And you'll be getting trained on that as well. And then, so that usually happens from around, I would say, 8:30 to 2 o'clock. And then 2:30 is when after school starts. Each of our school runs different after school programs. And that's where it becomes a little bit more fun. You get a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more creativity with what clubs you get to run. It's kind of like camp a little bit, where you get to run different activities, but they are academic based, and you get to work with anywhere from 30 students to 100 students, depending on how big your team is and what the school needs are and things like that. You won't know exactly what school you'll be placed at until the second week of your pre-service training. So I mentioned this earlier, but we provide one-on-one and small group tutoring. So that could be a push-in or a pull-out. And if you're not familiar with those terms, a push-in is when you're inside the classroom kind of in a corner of the classroom working with a group of students, and maybe the teacher is doing group work with a different group of students in a different section of the classroom, or she's doing are doing a full class support, and you're working in the classroom, or you're pulling them out in a different space, whether that's the hallway, cafeteria, the library, somewhere quiet where you're working individually with those students as well. You're coaching them in social emotional skills and positive routines. That comes kind of naturally and organically within just kind of being a mentor, but you're also teaching them hard skills to do that as well. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we are developing and running after-school programs. So in a second, I'm going to show you a video of what it kind of looks like day to day. Just a brief kind of intro video. As we go into registration day, I'll definitely elaborate more on what that looks like. But stay tuned and check out this video.
This was the year. The one where you learned what an A feels like. The one where you found the courage to speak up. When you realized you could grow up to be whatever you wanted to be.
But maybe it was also the year you had a hard time making it to class, staying out of trouble, keeping up. The year you had so much on your mind, you thought about not coming to school at all.
I know that in too many neighborhoods across the country, this is the story. Students bringing more challenges into class than their schools can help them meet. Not just having a hard time with their schoolwork, but with how they feel too.
Things that make it hard to graduate or to find a job, that mean never getting a chance to reach your full potential.
That's why when school starts this year, I'll be there. We'll be there to say good morning.
This is my full-time mission, from when the sun rises till it sets, to make sure that my students and their whole school are on the path to success.
I remember what it was like to get mixed up in algebra, or to get into trouble at lunch, or to lose focus with so much going on around me.
So I'll work with your teachers and your principal to make sure you get help when you need it.
To be there to help explain exponents.
To teach you some ways to calm down.
To make school a place you want to be.
Every time you see a red jacket in the hall, you'll see someone to confide in.
Someone to look up to.
Someone who's giving a year of service to be part of something big.
But most importantly, you'll see Mr. Rodriguez.
Miss Bennett.
Mr. James.
We're here to make this the year you finish your first chapter book.
The year you had perfect attendance.
The year you realize it's okay to love math.
I'm here to make this the year you start believing you can be whatever it is you want to be. This year, I'm your city year.
Okay, so while that didn't encompass everything that you'll be doing during the day, it definitely gave you an orientation to kind of what you'll look like being inside the school and working alongside teachers. So I know a lot of you are eager to find out what team you're going to be on, what school you're going to work on. So teams vary in size. We have smaller teams that are around 8 to really large teams that are around 19. That just depends on the size of the program and the size of the school. Each team is supervised by a team leader, which I mentioned earlier is a senior core member, and then an impact manager, which is a city or staff member. So they are, work for City or Incorporated. They are not AmeriCorps members. Your team leaders are AmeriCorps members, and they'll be with you from 7:30, when you start, 7:45, to when you finish the day around 5:45, depending on what the program is. And then your impact manager will be there most of the time, definitely in the beginning to set you up. But after that, they're kind of what you think of when you think of a typical manager. Their hours usually begin around 9, and they're usually there until around 5 with you. But they'll be working to coach you, tutor you, make sure you're prepared as well. And we also have instructional coaches who will help prepare you with training. That's my team, who will work with you with teaching you about the curriculum, teaching you about kind of what it means to work with students and work inside the classroom alongside your managers. So again, elaborate. You'll get all this information during your pre-service training and also during registration day as well. When will you get your team? I mentioned this again. You'll get it the Monday of your second week of pre-service training. So, you start on the 12th. The Monday after that is when you get your team. And then after that, you'll start going to sessions with your team. Before that, we just we want to learn a little bit about you and to kind of learn a little bit more about where you're going to be a great fit. And also take into consideration what your preference was, what the commute to school is going to be, how you're working on a diverse team. We intentionally put people who are going to push and challenge each other together. That being said, but also want to make sure that we're being cohesive and that we're putting you in a safe place where you're going to feel like you want to work with like-minded people, but also people who are going to challenge you as well. And again, teams are created to reflect the diverse nature of our core. We have a very diverse core. We have about 200 individuals coming into the core this year. That's including the team leaders as well. We'll be in 18 schools this year, so you'll be in one of the 18 schools placed into different zones. So you got your zone placement or your borough placement. It's the same thing. So during your first week of training, you'll find out which zone you're in and kind of which borough you'll be working in. So training and professional development. Since we were founded in 2005, we have supported our communities in a bunch of ways, and we've kind of changed the way we've done service. We've become much more academic. Originally, we were kind of we'll do anything that the school asks us to do, which is still the case for a lot of things. But what we really focus on is making sure that we're working with our students academically and their social emotional learning as well. So what that looks like is 3 weeks of pre-service training. Your first 2 weeks are going to be at Hunter College, which is in Manhattan. And those are what you think of when you think of typical high school or college sessions. You'll be sitting through different sessions. A lot of them are role play based, so you'll get to actually feel what it's like to have a conversation with a student or a teacher or even a manager and things like that. And then the last week, you'll be out in the community that you're serving, still getting trainings, but you'll become a little bit more familiar and comfortable with where you're going to be serving. It might not be the school you're serving at, but it'll be somewhere in that location. And then throughout the year, we have learning and development days. Those happen every Monday. So we'll either bring you into the office or you'll have a manager training or some type of meeting that happens on a Monday where you're actually not in the classroom. You are running after school typically in the afternoon, but those days typically start at 9 and not 7:45 in the morning, which are a nice ease into the week. So you'll be getting observed and coached throughout the year as well. And then we offer different full site trainings. So we have Fall Learning Conference, which happens in September, October, and then Mid-Year Summit, which happens in February. And during that time, you get just kind of another refresh in training and to make sure that you are on par with where you're supposed to be as well. You'll also be getting start, mid, and end of year performance reviews with your managers to make sure that you are working with your students and that you are getting the support that you need. So it's not necessarily to check that you're in line with everything, but it's really to support you to make sure that you feel supported and to make sure that we're giving you the resources that you need to do well. Let's see if I missed anything. I'm leaving this here so you can look through it. If you need to, you can always rewind. Days off. So if you need days off, you are allowed 12 personal days as a first-year core member. And those are up to you. You just need to let your manager know in advance. Those are sick days. If you need a rest day, you just need to let your manager know, typically a week in advance, but it's up to your manager to kind of set those ground rules, and your director as well. Those don't include like winter break or holiday breaks and things like that. A lot of the times when the students are off, we're still on, and those are trainings. But like there are times where students are off and schools are closed, and we're also off. So we'll make sure we get that information to you as soon as possible. For those of you traveling, definitely want to make sure that you're all set up if you want to go home for winter break or something like that. At registration day, you will get the vacation schedule, so just stay tuned for that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of serving, aside from just like really wholeheartedly giving a year of service and the like intrinsic benefit it has. You also are now connected to a whole network of individuals. City of New York is one of the largest sites in the network. So, you know, after completing a core year, you may find someone on the street, if you're wearing a City Year shirt or if you're wearing a red jacket or something, who's going to be like, oh, I did City Year 10 years ago and things like that. So you never know who can kind of get you, you know, whether it's a personal or professional networking opportunity. You know, you never know who you might bump into after that. But even during your year of service, one of my roles is to set you up with career development. So there's a lot of networking opportunities, and we base this off of core interests. So I'll survey you in the beginning of the year and find out kind of if you're interested in grad school, interested in nonprofit management, want to continue with City or things like that. And I create a scope and sequence throughout the year to set up different networking events, different career services and things like that to ensure that you are prepared to take whatever transferable skills you learn this year out into the world. And also, you know, you get to connect with alumni and hopefully, you know, stay in touch with City Year and give back whenever you can, even though you are taking a year of service for others, which is really commendable. Other benefits include childcare. You'll get your monthly Metro card. They'll probably start off by weekly Metro cards at first on your first day, which is August 12th. So you won't get it at registration. You will get it on August 12th. Where you're also eligible for loan forbearance and deferment. You'll find all about that before your start date. So at registration, Aisha Richardson, who is our core site operations manager, will go over all of that with you. And also I'll be giving out resources for that throughout you know, the summer to make sure that like if you have any questions, you can kind of look through that ahead of time. You are eligible for healthcare and insurance. If you are insured under your parents or someone, I would recommend keeping that one. But if not, we do have healthcare insurance, so you have the option to waive that if you don't need it. At the end of the year, you are also eligible for the Siegel Education Award, which I know all of you were prepped with during your interviews, but also during when you were offered the role. They talked about the Siegel Award as well. We'll talk about that at registration again. We also offer mental health counseling, and so we do have 2 social workers who schedule appointments with core members if you know you're having a rough time or you know you're having a hard transition to the city. We do offer that as a free benefit as well. And all you have to do is kind of reach out to them personally. That's anonymous. That's up to you. That's not something that we manage, but it is in our downtown office. So I talked earlier about transferable skills, and I'm going to use that word a lot this year. So whether you're going into teaching, medicine, law, dolphin training, you know, you're going to learn a lot this year, and a lot of it has to do with kind of those softer skills. So teamwork, learning to kind of work together and collaboratively on a team, what it means to prioritize different things, what it looks to just work in an organization. So I know a lot of you, this is going to be your first time working in kind of this type of job. It was for me at least. And I learned so much. And yes, I'm still at City Year, but my background is in social organizational psychology. So even knowing kind of what to expect, you know, going into another job or how to interview and things like that, you'll have those skills, and we'll make sure we talk about them before you kind of head out a year from now at your graduation. And the site support for that looks like, and I won't go into detail now, I'll go more into detail that during your pre-service training, is that you'll be getting support from me, you'll be getting support from your team leader, your manager, your director, anyone on staff, right? You have a whole network of people, alumni, board members. A lot of people are really invested in your professional development. So while we are a nonprofit that works with children, we also pride ourselves on being a leadership development organization as well. And there's definitely like a unity between that. So kind of learning about yourself through others is something that we really pride ourselves on and something that we value. I do want to go back real quick to a benefit that's not on here, and that is our relocation stipend benefit, which I've mentioned, and also emergency housing. So I will give more information about that on registration day, but really quickly, if you are relocating from 50 plus miles, you're eligible for a $500 additional stipend. You won't see that until you actually start service and we input it in. So you'll kind of get that after you begin service, you'll get an additional $500 on your paycheck. Unfortunately, we can't give you the $500 before if like you're traveling or something like that, just because we can't track whether or not you're actually, we trust that you'll come to service, but want to make sure that you are starting service, that you are onboarded, and then you'll kind of see that additional bonus. The other option is emergency housing. So I'll talk more about this at registration day. But if you're traveling 50 plus miles and you absolutely are like, I'm starting in a couple days, I have no housing, you can reach out to me and let me know. And we'll set up, we'll work with our city or headquarters to make sure that you are set up at an Airbnb or some type of alternative housing until you actually can confirm that you are having housing. The caveat to that is that you are in search for housing and you're kind of not just kind of, depending on that housing. New York can get pretty expensive. So we'll talk more about that as we approach registration day. But if you have any more questions about that, you can reach out to me directly. The process is changing a little bit, so I might not have the answer right away, but I'll get that to you as soon as possible. So what did alumni learn from their experience? Here are just some numbers for you. I'm not going to bore you and kind of like shoot them out, but here, feel free to take a look. 94% of alumni agree City Year had a significantly positive impact on their life. 82% reported that increased their civic engagement, so kind of community work and working with the community that they served in. And about 80% of alumni reported that City Year helped them along their career path as well. And being the person who leads career services, I can attest that though it may not feel like it during the year because you're kind of doing the work and going full throttle into the work, a couple years down the road, you have that realization that like, wow, I did learn a lot of those skills, those transferable skills. So now this is kind of the really important part that I want to prepare you for. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about what service is going to look like, but I want to make sure that you can get to service before that, and that you're all set up. So the stipend, this is wrong. So first year AmeriCorps members earn $800 biweekly, and that is before taxes. So it'll probably end up around $715-ish. It could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more. But that's what our core members say every 2 weeks. That's kind of what their paychecks have. So ignore the $629. That's what it was last year. It is $800 biweekly, and it is taxable. So that's why that money comes out. but you can claim those taxes with a W-4. So it just kind of depends on how you're claiming taxes, how much you're actually seeing paycheck to paycheck. I believe your paycheck will only be half the amount for the first cycle because you're starting halfway through the cycle, but after that, it'll be the full payment. So you'll be working a week, and then you'll see half of that, what you worked for, right? So you work a week, you'll receive what you worked for that week, and then you'll work 2 weeks, and then you'll receive that full stipend. We'll talk more about that again on registration day. I know I keep saying that, but I want to make sure that we get to kind of what to prepare for registration day ahead of time. And again, you get your Metro card on the first day of service on August 12th. Deciding where to live. For those of you who are, kind of freaking out right now, and like, I don't know about New York, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to live, I just know my placement. I would say that individuals who are living in or who are placed in Harlem and the South Bronx, there's plenty of places in West Harlem and East Harlem, even Astoria and the South Bronx, even on the west side near Washington Heights. That's where a lot of our core members lived, who are placed in those areas. But even if you are placed in that area and you're living in Brooklyn, the average commute for a New Yorker is anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. So you can easily get from, places in Brooklyn, whether you're living in like Bushwick or Williamsburg or somewhere, Bed-Stuy, to Harlem within an hour 15. And if you're working in East New York, again, I would probably look more in those areas near Brooklyn. It'll probably be an easier commute for you. So if you have any more questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to hop on the phone with you and talk more about it. It can be a little bit tricky working with landlords and kind of explaining that, like, okay, this is a job. It's not it's volunteering, but I'm also getting a stipend. So that whole confusion. So they might ask for a letter of employment. If you need a letter of employment, reach out to Aisha. That's her email on the screen. It's arichardson1@cityyear.org. You can email me as well. But usually they ask for first month's rent, last month's rent, and also a security deposit. So it can get a little bit costly. They might ask for a guarantor if they, think that it's needed. But if you do have that letter of employment and kind of work with them, they usually are fine, and that's enough proof. Also, I'm going to keep posting, our core members who are leaving. If they have like open spots in their apartments open, I'll keep making sure that they're posting, or I'm inviting them into the Facebook group, or that I'm posting any rooms that are available or anything that I hear offhand. I will support you at as much as I can. I would say that getting an apartment in New York City is a vital part of becoming a New Yorker and living in New York. So while we unfortunately can't provide housing for you, it will kind of help get you there, and you are starting a new job and embarking on this journey. So while it is your responsibility, we will do everything we can to ensure that we're giving you the resources to set you up to find housing. And again, I mentioned earlier, if for some reason you need emergency housing, reach out to us. And we can support you for a little bit of time while you're still in that process, or while you're connecting with other core members or looking at Craigslist. If you haven't checked out the core member website yet, please check that out. It has all of the information about kind of the websites to start looking for. Definitely recommend Gypsy Housing on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, I would just join that just to do that. There are open bedrooms all the time there. A lot of them you can either go into a lease where like it's cheaper because then you don't have to pay a security deposit, or they work with you. So you have options. Getting around, so it seems confusing when you look at a map, but it's actually, I would say New York City is probably one of the easiest cities to get around to when the MTA is actually working properly and everything's going according to plan, which is rare, but the case for most things. So subways are identified with letters or numbers, and that is what your MetroCard works for. So the MetroCard that you receive will work for all of the subways that have numbers and letters. Unfortunately, they don't work for Metro North if you're commuting from upstate or Connecticut, and they don't work for NJ Transit as well if you're commuting from Jersey, and they don't work for the Long Island Railroad if you're commuting from Long Island as well, and also Staten Island. So anything within the 4 boroughs and anywhere that the MTA with numbers or letters goes to is what the MetroCard works for. We'll make sure that you are acclimated to the city. I think when I started doing my core year, I just kind of studied the map and kind of figured it out. But by the first month, you'll feel like a pro, and you'll get a lot of experience because you'll be commuting to a lot of different places just within those 3 weeks of training. So you'll kind of have a different experience than someone maybe who is coming here just with one job where they're commuting from their house to their job every day. You're going to get a lot of different experience in the city. So I would say that that's a benefit as well. So here's a list of things that you'll need for registration day. So you should have gotten an email to order your uniform. If you have not done that, please make sure that you do that, that you're looking in your inbox. If you do not see it, you can email Crystal Cabrera, who her email will be at the end. I'll show you that. You need to complete your onboarding for us for City Year, so that should come through Workday, and that should be at 77%. So if you did not do that, you should definitely do that. Once you complete your onboarding, you'll get an email from My AmeriCorps or eGrants. So if you served in AmeriCorps year already, you're going to get an email from eGrants to enroll in My AmeriCorps. If this is your first year serving with AmeriCorps, you'll get an email from AmeriCorps, and you'll be able to enroll in My AmeriCorps. So we get notifications once you're enrolled. If for some reason we see that you're not enrolled, we'll follow up with you, but please just make sure that you are enrolling. That's on the checklist as well. There are 2 background checks that you'll need to do. One is online, which I'll talk about in a second. And then the other is PETS, which you'll have to do in person before your registration day. You will, after you watch this video, you'll sign up for a registration day. At least a week ahead of time, you'll get an email from PETS, which is from the Department of Education, alerting you and letting you know where to go get fingerprinted. That's the 2 background checks that you'll have to do before starting service. For the first background check, which is TrueScan, you will have to do online, and then once you see like a certificate of completion or just like saying that like you're all done, take a screenshot of that and then send that to Aisha. Again, that is all the information that down below, but for TrueScreen, make sure that you are just doing that as well. The other thing is to sign up for registration day. So after you watch this video, you'll have 5 registration day choices to choose from, and each of them have 50 slots. So if for some reason one fills up, you're going to have to try to find a different one. If there's like they're all filled up, or like the 3 that you can make fill up, email Aisha, and she will set you up, and we'll work with you to try to get you in at a different day. But hopefully the numbers work out where that's not an issue. But I would say right after this, please sign up, and to make sure that you are prepared come for that day. And I'll tell you where to go and what to do, everything. So once you are confirmed for registration day, I'll also send you an email letting you know where to go, how to get in, what to bring, reminders, and things like that. You'll also need to either bring your diploma or transcript, or email it to our compliance manager. So that could be your diploma or your transcript. I would just recommend, and it doesn't have to be the original thing, it could be a copy. I would just bring that in on registration day, as well as your resume. So make sure you also have a copy of that for your registration day as well. And then finally, there's a medical health statement. There's a link to that down below, and I also posted it in the Facebook group. You'll have to get a TB test, so it means you'll have to make 2 trips to the doctor. One, you'll bring that document with you, you'll print it out, they'll know what to do. You'll get the TB test, you'll get it checked to mark and say you don't have TB, so you can serve, and then you'll bring that with you to registration. If for some reason you're having issues with the diploma, transcript, resume, or health statement before your registration day, just give us a heads up. We definitely need that information, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. But I'm going to say, like, make sure you have it for registration day. Okay, so onboarding completion. So again, I mentioned this, within 2 weeks of your acceptance, you should receive an email asking you to complete the onboarding process. That needs to be 70% or over. I think it ends up being around 77%, depending on what you do. You'll finish the rest of your onboarding on registration day. Again, so you'll receive once you complete that onboarding, you'll receive that email from My AmeriCorps or ePayments. Check your spam folder. A lot of it went to my spam folder when I served, and I was like, what? I don't know where it is. So make sure you're checking that if you don't see it. If you definitely don't see it and you're like, hey, I checked everything, again, email Aisha, and then we'll make sure that you are set up for that. So this is what I was talking about with the TrueScreen. You're going to receive an email from backgroundcheck@cityyear.org. So that's going to be the first background check that you do. And then when you have that completion screen, you're going to screenshot that certificate to Aisha. And then the background check for pets, a week and a half before your registration day, you'll get that email, and it'll tell you where to go get fingerprinted. And you'll get a receipt, and you need to bring that receipt with you in person to your registration day. So you can, if you're like coming in, the day before your registration day, and that's when you're moving to New York City, you can go the morning of, because we're not starting registration day until a little bit later. I think they open around 8-ish, not like 8:30. So you can go there the morning of, get that done, and then bring it. But if you're here earlier, I would recommend just going earlier just to get it out of the way. Signing up for registration day. So after this video, you're going to head down to the registration link, and you have 5 dates to choose from. So that's Monday, July 22nd, Friday, July 26th, Monday, July 29th, Friday, August 2nd, and Monday, August 5th. These are the days that you should be signing up for. Again, if for some reason you can't sign up for one of these days, or you're like, hey, I'm not getting into the city until August 6th, that's when you'll email Aisha and we'll talk about an alternative date for you. But if you can't make it until like August 11th, August 12th, unfortunately, you won't be able to start that first week of service. You'll be able to start the second week of service, and we'll get you registered during that first week. You're more than welcome to volunteer your time, but it won't count for your actual service hours, and it won't count towards your stipend as well. Unfortunately, we just need 3 days between registering and your start date as well, if that makes sense. So definitely prioritize these dates. If you're in the city by July, sign up for the first one, get it out of the way so you can kind of enjoy and explore. But you have a couple options here that are spread out. You'll also need to bring a a few things to registration day, so identification. What I would recommend bringing is, if you have a passport, bring your passport and bring your social security card. If you have those two things, you don't need to worry about anything else on this list. If you don't have a passport, what you'll need is your ID. It needs to be a state ID. It can't be like your college ID or anything like that. It needs to be a state ID, an original copy of your birth certificate, and then also an original copy of your social security card. These need to be original copies because we can't take copies. We just need to make sure they're authentic. So definitely for social security card, definitely for ID, and definitely birth certificate, make sure those are original copies. If you don't have your birth certificate and you need it, I would start reaching out now to your town hall or start talking to a parent or guardian about how you can access that as well. And everything needs to be up to date. We can't take anything expired as well. But I'm leaving this up here for a second just so you can look if you have any issues, if there's other options for proof of legal permanent residence and proof of U.S. citizenship as well. If you are, have a visa or a green card or something like that, these are some other options for you. So passport card works as well. It's a video, so you can always go back and pause it if you need to. Again, health form. Health form is attached to this email. You need to bring that in on your registration day. And then I mentioned earlier about the resume or transcript/diploma. I would just bring it in on your registration day. But if you're like, hey, I want to get this out of the way, you can email it to Katie Blake, who is our corporate manager, compliance manager, and her email is down there, kblake@cityyear.org. So, your next steps: complete onboarding, complete My AmeriCorps, do your 2 background checks, fill out the registration survey in this email, collect all the necessary documents you need, get that health form signed, and then also make sure you have all of the copies of your resume or diploma that you need or transcript. So there is a checklist that is also attached to this email that I've made for you. So just to keep yourself in line and on track. But other than that, if you have any questions at all, these are the individuals you can reach out to. So generally, you can reach out to me and I will direct you, or I will answer the question for you. Email is the fastest way to reach any of these people. So if you see a number in an email, I would recommend just emailing first. If it's an emergency, you can call the cell or mobile number in the email signature. But definitely, we're responsive to email. If you didn't receive an email about uniform or onboarding, email Crystal at kcabrera@cityyear.org. If you didn't receive information about registration day, AmeriCorps, or your background check, email Aisha at arichardson1@cityyear.org. If you have questions about service in general or unsure who to go to, again, email me. And then if you have questions about resume, diploma, health form, or your transcript, email Katie Blake at kblake@cityyear.org. That is all. That is a lot of talking, but I did want to kind of just onboard you and let you know that we are so excited to have you join us this year. You have an amazing year ahead of you. It's going to be very challenging, but also extremely rewarding. Firsthand, I've worked with some amazing people in this organization, and our students are some of the most incredible souls that you'll ever meet. So I'm excited for you to get to meet them as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Other than that, I'll see you at registration day. All right.